And I just felt that this monopoly of knowledge was blocking the environment movement, because the expertise was always on the other side, always in the hands of destroyers. So I thought I'd start an organization that would produce reports for the movements, to stop mining, some of the early dam work, including the Narmada work, the work in central India and Singrauli, the work on forestry issues, monocultures of eucalyptus, all of that was done by. And I think India is the place where globalization, the current model of corporate globalization that has no place for human rights, globalization that has no place for people, and globalization that has no place for nature, that globalization, the final test is India. But India, we do have democracy, and yet democracy is being killed. The largest active democracy of the world is being extinguished right now, and we have to be very innovative and very organized in order to be able to move into the next phase, because on this present model, 80% of India will be annihilated, and I'm not saying that as a joke. Every piece of land being taken over for a high-tech city. So India's being made to appear as if its resources are only to service a global economy, and not for the people of our country, and not for human rights, just for profits of corporations. And for a highly populated country like India, 1.2 billion, ancient society, that equation is an equation that says 80% of you don't matter. The tribals, peasants, fishermen, women don't matter. And they do. In my worldview, they matter seriously. Well, I mentioned on the tribal law, I'm on the expert group for drafting the tribal law to recognize the rights of tribals to their land in the forests. In terms of biodiversity, we have fought 3 cases on the appropriation of traditional knowledge through a phenomena we call biopiracy. I don't know if they backed biopiracy. And we have a system in India called the public interest litigation. And it was started by Chief Justice Bhagwati, a system which we used to have the first environmental victory in India in 1982. And the judges ruled that the Constitution guarantees the right to life. It's Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, the right to life. And since a sustainable ecology and sustainable ecosystems are essential to maintain life, commerce which destroys life has to be stopped, because life cannot be stopped. And using Article 21, the mining was stopped in our valley, and many groups have used the precedents of that case, which was the first environmental ruling in the Indian courts. 1992. No, 1982 it was filed. 83 the ruling came. Yeah, this is the ruling. This is the first case of its kind in the country involving issues related to environment and ecological balance. And the question arising for considerations are of grave moment and of significance not only for the people residing in the Mussoorie range, but also in the implication for the welfare and generality of people in the country. A price has to be paid for protecting and safeguarding the right of the people to live in a healthy environment with minimum disturbance of ecological balance and without avoidance of hazards to them, their cattle, homes, agricultural land. Therefore, India, the decision of the Supreme Court of India was the precedent for accepting a stable and healthy environment as a human right. The common lands of villages are being taken over again by force, because common lands being there means they're village lands. The government has no rights to it. It's village rights, it's community rights. But the government's taking these lands over and handing it over to 2 groups of industry. One is the pulp industry to grow raw material, and the other is the biofuel and biodiesel industry. So if you notice, British Petroleum is already investing, and both in Gujarat and Rajasthan, there are already now new movements growing, and we are supporting both groups. And this whole right to land issue, you will notice, that will also be a very big issue. The human rights to common lands, because common lands is where the very, very, very poor get their fuel, get grazing for their cattle, get their fodder, and if those common lands aren't there, there's no water. So the pulp industry and and this whole pressure of biodiesel is going to be in huge competition with the food needs of people.
We are a different area, but that's something.
I'm working with the farmers in that area, and this is so tragic. In Noida, all these new industries that are coming up, they first took over the land, and just the villages were left, you know. Of course, when you have no land, only a village, what do? You set up a little shop, you know. You sell something, you sell beedies, you sell tobacco. Now they're coming and saying your land, your shops, everything's illegal. And they're now bringing bulldozers to uproot even the villages. Because now they have a new master plan for the area. And in the master plan, the village should not exist. Because it's troublesome, you've got buffaloes that stink, you know. How can a Noida chief executive go past stinking buffaloes of an Indian village? So, I mean, this literally every second day there are protests. Now, in Research Foundation as well as Nafrania, our work on issues of environmental protection are deeply embedded in the human rights of people to their rights to resources. And that's the area in which we work. So we work on farmers' rights to seed, but also to conserve biodiversity as an ecological issue. And for us, the two are not separate. They're not separate because in India, they're not separate. Yeah? For the tribals, the forest and their rights to the forest are one issue. If you notice, I mean, this is a set we did for the social forum, and they're very popular. I think they've all gone through 3 or 4 reprints. But there was the corporate hijack of agriculture, corporate hijack of food, corporate hijack of water, and corporate hijack of biodiversity. Basically about how in each field, 5 companies there, 5 companies here, 5 companies here, are taking over entire areas, including taking property rights in areas that cannot be owned as property, like water, or life forms and biodiversity. So what we've done, and I think we are unique in doing that, not just in India but in the world, what we've done is we've defended the alternatives, you know, in real terms. So we've created, for example, a movement called Living Democracy, Jai Panchayats, where now my latest count is 10,000 villages, have basically declared themselves biodiversity republics, saying that we will protect our biodiversity, we will use our biodiversity according to our own norms, culture and laws, and not according to the patenting rights of corporations. And our biodiversity will not be destroyed. Irrigation, and you have to buy them every year, which creates a vicious cycle of debt, and the debt is leading to this phenomenon, first time ever in India. So in fact, I'm coming out of 2 weeks of a journey I've undertaken through what is the suicide belt, and basically saying the suicides must stop and farmers can end suicides. We've taken a truckload of seeds and we're distributing seeds. So you don't have to end your life. Don't buy those seeds that you have to buy every year and that fail you. Grow the seeds your ancestors gave you. And you can save them every year, you can feed your children, and you won't get into a debt. New factories, the farmers are losing their land because, I mentioned this in my talk yesterday, yesterday's Herald Tribune has a huge story. The government is taking land from the peasants and then handing it over to global agribusiness to grow food for exports. Farmers are being killed for that too. And they resist. Why should any farmer let his land go? So the issue of land is the third. Seed biodiversity, land, water, food and agriculture. Food as a basic need, and forest and tribal issues. I am on the expert group that's drafting this new law, and we've shut down 5 plants of steel plants by using the amendments that were brought in on the Panchayati Raj Act for scheduled areas. But under the new globalization, it's as if there's no law that defends, you know, our constitutional guarantees are being thrown to the wind. And it's like there's only one law, the law of the market. This river linking project is another madness. $200 billion, again starting with World Bank, to reroute every river. No river will flow in India if this project comes through.